So, I need to put some reflections on this thing, and if I go and I render right now, I'm noticing my computer is still acting a bit flaky. Okay, so I got to render. I put a little color on this thing. If I go in and I turn up reflectivity, and then I render, I've changed the environment color here. CC is going to pick up the environment. I'd like it to reflect something else. So what I'm going to quickly do is let's go in and create a polygon sphere, and I'll just go in here and I'll scale it. I swear I hit the scale button. Okay, great. Boop. Just make it big. There's other ways to do this, but I'm just going to try and keep this relatively simple. And if I go in and I assign a new material, I'm going to actually just use a surface shader. Surface shader is just going to pump in whatever you put on it. So if I go in here to out color and I put on, come on, a file texture, and I'm just going to go browsing. For the love of God, just go a little bit faster. Here I'm going to go into there and I'm going to grab something out of there. And I just fished something off the internet here, a simple HDRI image. Okay. And if I render now, we see it showing up in the background. And maybe I don't want this office thing to be in here, but we'll see what it looks like. Okay, but you're seeing it pick up in the reflections, which is kind of cool. Okay, and I do believe I've got an infinite plane as well that's on the floor down there. Anyway, I'm picking up reflections. That's cool. If I take this thing here and I go into the attribute editor, if I go into the perspective shape, I can just go in and make it so that this thing doesn't actually render, and I can go into render stats, and I'm just going to turn off its primary visibility. And now we'll see the reflections show up, but there will not be any image in the background. Okay. And one other thing I want to do here to this object, if I go to the V-Ray material for it, I've got reflections cranked up. I'd like to use the Fresnel. Okay, so we'll see it so that the reflection straight on is not really reflective. The reflections are actually on the edges here. And if you want to, you could go down here to where it says lock Fresnel index of refraction to refraction IOR. You can change this. If you drop it down a little bit, you'll see a bit more of this come around the edges here. Okay, maybe one last thing. I've been playing with the V-Ray Lite, and for some reason my computer does not seem to be too happy with it. So instead of crashing, I'm just going to go in here and quickly create my spotlight and pop it right there. Let's go back here to perspective. My computer's acting really flaky. And if I were to render, well, actually, yeah, let's put the render on. Okay, so now we got a light coming in. Okay, maybe the edges are a bit hard, so I'm just going to go in and adjust the penumbra, a little bit of drop off, maybe not more than a value of 10, so that you see the lights there kind of bleed out a little bit along the edges. I like that a little bit better. I'm just going to go into shadows and use ray trace shadows, and I'll adjust the light radius here. That'll just kind of blur out the edges a little bit of the shadows. So if I take a look, okay, I get something like that. If I don't like the noise here, you can just go to the shadow rays and crank that up to say 25. That should give me something relatively nice. The ray depth limit is sitting at 1, and I should actually have that up about 2. 2 is your minimum that you typically want that to be at. Otherwise, this will have to. What if I just escape? Nope. Okay, and it looks like it's going to about to do it. Jumped up to 85%, 94%, and come on, 96. Just finish it. Just be done. 98. Oh my god, this is time for a new computer. There we go, it's done. Okay, so you had to suffer through a minute of me babbling watching the timer go off. Anyway, that's okay. Ray depth limit 2. Let's see, anything else I want to do in here? Got lights. I could put a backlight on this if I wanted to. The other crazy demand I think I asked for is I'm going to put on tune lines. If you just go here to create V-Ray, you'll find someplace in here that you'll find V-Ray tune. And there it is, it's on. I'm going to render, but this time I'm going to pause so you don't have stuff. Okay, so I just rendered it out. I did one render. By default I used the black lines, and then I decided, well, let's go and put some white lines on just for the hell of it and see what that looks like. Renders are, for me, they're ridiculous. So I think that's everything on my crazy list. There's one other thing I want you to do, that just so you're aware of how to do it. I don't know if I did this in class or not, but just going in and doing things like if I grab these objects and if I went into the hypershade, see, and this is taking moments to get to. Okay, and if I went and let's pull this over this way so you can clearly see what the hell I'm doing. If I go over and I take those 3 objects and go and hit that, boop, then I go and I do something like this, you can see my shader networks. Okay, guess I'm going to ask you to go in and do something like do a screenshot of this stuff. Okay, just so you can kind of see how everything's all working together. Boop, here. Okay, and that's it.